everybody. Good evening. Welcome to a breaking news live stream. I experimented with doing a live stream to cover breaking news with James Gunn's DC announcement. And I think it worked very well because it allows me to discuss these things with you right when they happen instead of having to wait till hours later. However, a breaking news live stream is going to be different from a regular live stream. And that's that, as you can see, I have a graphic on here telling you that I would appreciate it if you tried to hold most of your comments and questions until the Q&A section. And I have a graphic so that you know when we've reached the Q&A section. This is to keep us on target, on topic. Let me cook. And also for people who are watching this not live. So I'm so glad that so many of you are joining me. We have really wonderful, wonderful stuff to discuss. This was an exciting phone call. All right, let's get started. I'm glad you like my blouse. It's new. I filmed a lot of stuff in this today, and I was nervous about it. I was like, boy, I filmed a lot of important stuff in this shirt. I hope everybody likes it. All right, this is a big deal. I'm excited. This is very cool. I still like looking at your chat, though. And if you have a relevant question or comment, I might answer it, but I can't guarantee that I will, just so you know up front. All right, so what were the highlights in the call? The highlights in the call were that Disneyland is getting a Pandora, which is an Avatar land. And I've been saying for weeks now, what is Disney going to do to expand the Avatar franchise? And they're already started. That's just already. That's what they can just do right now. So I'm sure that many more things are coming. So that's like the first thing that they announced. Also, sequels. As you can see, we're getting Zootopia 2. I actually heard that a few days ago. Zootopia 2, Frozen 3, and Toy Story 5. Didn't Woody and Buzz split up at the end of the last one? I don't know how that's going to work. We'll talk about them a little bit more specifically a little later in the stream. I'm just going over the headlines right now. Also, jobs. Very sadly, there will be considerable layoffs like we're seeing in a number of industries right now. And Bob Iger said that he will be laying off 7,000 people. He feels real bad about it, though. So, he's still laying off 7,000 people because they need to right the ship. And then also something else that he talked about a lot, which I thought was interesting, was accountability. He's going to give more creative freedom within Disney, but if you mess up, I think he made it pretty clear he's going to fire you. So the heads of these divisions, Kathleen Kennedy's free pass is finally over, right? But there will be consequences because you can't blame it on somebody else. You can't say, well, you didn't launch. That's funny, Lexi, a strict daddy. I would like to call Bob Iger that. I think that's pretty funny. He's a strict daddy. He's got rules. We got to be careful. This could get inappropriate real fast. But anyway, he said there's going to be accountability, and I would like to see that be true. I would really like to see that if you sink a division, you got to go. Because right now, I think maybe they were, because the way Bob Chapek had structured the company, you could kind of pass the buck. So, and then also I think company image. I think he wants Disney to be seen as a really strong company. But also to be seen as a loving company where they care about their consumers. And I think that has not been the image that they've had lately. Although I already feel like some of the things that he said don't make sense and don't jive with what he just said. So we'll talk about that too. There's Bob Iger right there. He recently visited Walt Disney World, and that's one of the pictures that he took with some cast members. I think that's a really nice pic. I love it. And I thought that, I got to tell you, hot damn, what an impressive individual. I thought he was really great on today's call. It was so great to hear his voice again after hearing Bob Chapek for a few years. And I thought that Bob Iger, he just really knows what he's doing. I mean, he has tons of experience. He's been running the company with a short break since 2005. He's coming up like almost on 20 years. And so I think that his experience, not just with Disney, but in Hollywood, really comes across. One of the things that I often like to say is that while natural talent is important, there's no account, you can't make up for experience. Experience is crucial. And if you ever talk or listen to somebody who has a lot of experience in their field, and you get the opportunity to hear them talk freely, you will really be blown away. And I think that's kind of what you got with Bob Iger today, particularly at the end of the call when he was answering questions. And we're going to go over some of the things that he said. I mean, talk about cooking. He was like, wow, you got like some unvarnished Bob Iger thoughts on streaming. And it was fascinating. This guy's really paying attention. I also think he is aware of Nelson Peltz. If you aren't familiar who Nelson Peltz is trying to stage a coup to some degree by making himself become a member of the board. He's going to force his way in there with a vote. And one of you updated, I think it was Aaliyah, pointed out to me that will be in April, actually. So I think that Bob Iger really wants to make it clear that he doesn't need Nelson Peltz to come in there and watch him. Bob Iger is more than capable of fixing things himself. And I got to tell you, after today's call, I was like, wow, I kind of feel like maybe he can. Although we could have another situation where it's like, pay attention to what I do, not to what I say. Because as I said, I see a couple of things here which I feel don't already match up to what's being said. I'm like, oh, but you just said you were going to do this. And I already don't think you're not. All right, but let's see. Okay, so let's first talk about the big strokes and particularly the things that he said at the end of the call, because those to me were the most interesting. And then we'll talk a little bit about how he framed the call. And we'll do some polls, Andrew, at the end, for sure. I don't want to do the polls while I'm talking, but we'll do some polls. I know you guys like polls. I like polls. We'll poll it up. And then after we go over his broad strokes and some of his observations, we'll talk about how he framed the call and what he was saying for what's going on with the company and how he is restructuring. I heard that he was going to restructure and there were going to be layoffs. That was the word in Tinseltown, and it unfortunately turned out to be true. So I think one thing that he made very clear during this investor call is that Disney is not going to experiment quite so much. They are not going to try new things. They know what works, and they're just going to keep churning out examples of what works. So you're going to see a lot less experimentation. I think you could kind of see through what he was saying, where he felt like not only are we concerned about each individual project, but we're concerned about the image of the brand. So not only are we concerned about each Disney animation movie, we're worried about Disney animation overall. So that's why I put that image in there. I think I really perfectly captured the Disney company after this call. I really love the graphic that I came up with. I hope you're enjoying it. But, you can see the major divisions there. Alan Horn's no longer with the company, but that's the only time they've ever actually put it up there very nicely, when Alan Horn was running things. So maybe when they go back to D23 next time, they'll do a better job. But, you can see Walt Disney Pictures, that's the Lion King on the left there. Disney Animation with Frozen, Pixar with Toy Story there, Marvel Studios with Captain Marvel, and then, of course, Star Wars with Lucasfilm with Rey. And I think that Bob Iger made it clear that he doesn't want to see those divisions hurt their images by putting out crappy product. I mean, I think he was pretty clear about that. He also said, we're spending way too much money to make this stuff, and some of it's not even good. So I suspect you might see them do less. I would love to see some divisions like Marvel and Star Wars, and I even cover the stuff. I'd like to see them put out a little bit less, quite frankly, because Bob Iger said it costs us a lot of money, and as I just said, it's not even all good. So I think he's going to bring down the costs and try and just put out better product that reflects what people like about the brand. I think that they have some people right now who work there who are like, to what Kathleen Kennedy did with Star Wars, where they asked themselves, what do we want the brand to be? And Bob Iger's like, I don't care what you personally want the brand to be. I care what the consumer wants the brand to be. And that's what I expect you to deliver. Then there was a big focus on pricing. Now, he really focused in particular on Disney Plus, but I also hope that he focuses on the price point in the parks. Genie Plus, I think, has really divided people. Parks, though, are making so much money. They are the top performers in the company right now that there's, I think, no way they're going to get rid of that. However, Bob Iger did talk today about how he's trying to make the parks more accessible and affordable, but you're like, is Genie Plus still there? Because then you're not doing it. I think he's talked about how he brought down some of the prices on some of the days, and you're like, that's not anything. You know, I think Genie Plus is a really, really big problem. A really big problem for how, I think, you know, I've heard stories about how crowded, I haven't been able to go, but I hear how crowded the parks are. And that even when you pay for Genie Plus, you still find yourself on a 20 to 30 minute line. So imagine how long the line is for people who don't have Genie Plus. I mean, what is this, Universal? I mean, Universal is the one that's known for ridiculously long lines. This is, I think, an issue. Then he also talked about, the theme parks, and as I said, accessibility and affordability. And he said also, just like he's putting Avatar in Disneyland, he said, when we put Avatar in Animal Kingdom, attendance went up. And you're like, no, Sherlock, of course it went up. But he said, we're going to keep doing that. And he said he talked to Josh D'Amaro, who's going to continue to be the heads of Disney Parks and Experiences. And he said, I want to leverage even more brands in the theme parks. I want to put even more of our popular brands in theme parks for people to experience. But I get nervous about that. Like, for instance, for those of you who go visit Disneyland, I mean, do you really think there's any space there for Avatar? Right? Is there any space for Avatar there? I don't really think that there is. I can't think of which park it would go in, Disneyland or California Adventure, where there would be room. I just really don't know where. I think you need like another park, quite frankly. So is the answer going to be they're going to build, but they don't have the property in California. And then also I think that Disney is losing the identity of their parks. For those of you who are big Disney fans, that's pretty funny, Stephen Excelitz, about Bye Bye Downtown Disney. I wouldn't be afraid. I wouldn't be surprised if they ripped that out. If they ripped out Downtown Disney and maybe put Pandora in there. And maybe they could build Downtown Disney a little bit over, maybe in one of their parking lots or, somewhere a little bit over further away. Because right now, the way it's modeled, I like the layout of Disney. I think it's charming at Disneyland. But I think that, you could put it somewhere else and keep the rides all in one space. They can't take out Toontown Quasar because they just put Mickey's Runaway Railroad in there. They just expanded it. I guess they could put it behind that. So yeah. But then also I think the parks are losing their identities. Like, what's the difference between California Adventure and Disneyland? There isn't one really at this point. I guess, Disneyland, of course, is the classic iconic park. But when you go to Florida, it was supposed to be a really big difference between Magic Kingdom, Epcot, which was supposed to be all about education and the future and different countries. Then Hollywood Studios was supposed to be about Hollywood and the movie business. And then Animal Kingdom was supposed to be a living zoo. And I think you've gotten to a point where they're all just theme parks. You just go where you are interested in, what you want to ride and what characters you like that day. But I really feel that I'm concerned about it. It makes me a little bit nervous because I liked that quality so much. Although, they have the attendance numbers. And like, for instance, I didn't like when they started to redo Hollywood Studios, but Hollywood Studios had I believe the worst attendance. And so you're like, well, I don't really know what to do about that. That's awful. I think we're just going to have to change it. So anyway, I'm very excited about Avatar getting a land, and I'm very excited also to hear what they do after that. More Avatar is definitely coming, and why shouldn't it? It's probably going to be the two of the top 3 most successful films of all time. That's incredible. Every park will eventually get a Pandora. Disneyland, I feel, is just first. All right, then he had some really fascinating things to say about the streaming business, which, of course, Bob Iger is largely responsible for making the future of Hollywood because he saw what Netflix was doing, and he decided to say, well, why not Disney? And because he did it, it forced every other studio to have to jump into the pool too. But Bob Iger's like, not so fast. So Bob Iger, this was amazing. So Bob Iger said streaming still is not like linear. Linear distribution methods, which is traditional network television and cable and movie theaters, and also digital sales like through places like iTunes and stuff. He said linear, and that's where it's a price point. That's where you get a price point per it's an a la carte menu basically. That's what linear is. He said linear still delivers the best, and streaming, because you pay one price point every month and then you could churn, then you could leave, it's still not as consistent a revenue stream. So he said, we leaned so heavily on streaming that we lost sight of the value that is still left in linear. And he gave a beautiful example. He said, Abbott Elementary is an extremely popular show that airs on 2 different spaces in the Disney empire. It debuts on ABC, where he said the average viewer is 60 in their 60s. And then he said, then it replays on Hulu, where your average viewer is in your 30s. So he said, we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to put things in multiple spots. I don't know if you saw the headline that after they did that with Andor, The Mandalorian Episode 1 will be airing on ABC in the next coming weeks. And will be airing on a couple of other spaces as well to get an audience beyond Disney+. So it really reminds me also of what Universal has done, where they're playing movies simultaneously in theaters and on digital. And they're making a lot of money simultaneously at the same time. And that's what Bob Iger is seeing. So, Universal did really do something good. And so I think you're going to see less of like this lives here and this lives there. You're going to see this lives everywhere. And because everybody's fractured. Some people like to watch network television. Some people prefer streaming. Some people like cable, but some people have cut the cord. Some people like to go to the theater. Some people would rather watch it at home. But that's fascinating. However, at the same time, Bob Iger very clearly said that linear, the traditional distribution methods, are still far more profitable. He said he doesn't expect Disney Plus to be profitable until the end of next year, 2024. So they got a lot. And they do have some churn issues. Like, for instance, it was reported they lost 2.4 million subs this year, this quarter. That was the first time they've had a downturn. But I believe that's because they said it was because they lost some sports in India. And so that was the larger package. Still, when you talk about Disney Plus individually, it still grew in terms of subscribers. That's right, Michael McKenna knows India. So I think that's really why you saw a downturn. But overall, Disney is still showing growth in their different subscribers. ESPN Plus, though, only grew by like 600,000 subs. That's a weird space. They asked Bob Iger if he was going to consider selling off ESPN and spinning it off. I mean, they are cash poor right now. Not as cash poor as Warner Brothers Discovery, but they need money. And he said, no, when I was away, when Bob Chapek was in charge, I was told that Disney explored selling ESPN and decided against it. So ESPN isn't going anywhere. It's just like this weird sports thing in the middle of the Disney empire. And then also, I think, so this is like a transition period. Bob Iger talked a lot about transitions, and we're going to talk about that in a moment in the way that he laid it out. But here I want to say that clearly he feels that we're still transitioning from linear to streaming. And since we're in that middle space, content needs to exist in both areas. We can't feel that we fully transitioned. But he does feel that linear's days are numbered, and eventually it'll all be streaming. It'll all be streaming eventually. And then in terms of leaning into like what they know works, he announced some sequels. He announced Toy Story 5, which again, as I said, I don't know how you can make Toy Story 5 because the last one was pretty final, unless Buzz and Woody are no longer the stars, and I say good luck with that. And I hope that they realize that they need Tim Allen to voice Buzz. I hope they learn their lesson with Lightyear. And I hope that Tim Allen stops making it so difficult to employ him by doing and tweeting things that some audiences find offensive. Just stay in the middle, Tim Allen. That's all you got to do. But I would like to see Tim Allen continue. So yeah, Toy Story 5. Frozen 3, which I think we all want to see. I think we all want to see Frozen 3. I think Frozen 2, I know some people didn't care for it. I actually preferred it to the first one. But they're continuing to build Frozen lands, not just the Frozen ride, but tons of lands. Very popular. So they're going to want more Frozen for sure. And they're going to want to keep that, in the public eye having new movies. Then Zootopia 2. They're also building Zootopia experiences. There's a Zootopia land being built right now, I believe, in Shanghai. And I'm sure you'll see it being built in other places as well. So they need to do Zootopia 2. I'm a little bit nervous because Rich Moore, who co-directed and I believe co-wrote Zootopia, left the company right after Zootopia came out, actually. So I'm a little bit nervous about Zootopia 2, kind of working. I'm a little bit nervous about it being as good as the first one. But we'll see. I hope that it's still focusing, of course, on Nick and Judy. So we'll see. Those are all, by the way, Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, and Zootopia are all movies that grossed $1 billion They're all billion-dollar movies, and they're all very reliable brands. And I think that's Bob Iger's answer to Strange World and Lightyear. I think he's like, Lightyear, though, was like a brand, but it was experimentation on it. And I think he's like, stop doing that. Do what works. And I know some of you will say, well, I'm tired of all these sequels, but everybody keeps paying to see them. And Disney will continue to make them until suddenly they stop making money. But as I said, every movie I just mentioned, just the last entry, made $1 billion. So they're definitely going to keep doing it. All right, so let's talk now about what Bob Iger said. So he talked about the fact that he was back. He was very glad to have returned. And he said that he's very happy to be here when the company is experiencing its centennial. That's its 100th anniversary. And he again pointed out that he'd been there since 2005. I believe just running the company since 2005. He'd actually worked there even longer than that. And he said he's overseen so far in his career at Disney 2 transformations. All right, this was very interesting. I loved seeing it from Bob's perspective. So he said the first transformation that he oversaw was greater creative control and focusing on brands and franchises which acquired the acquisitions that he oversaw. We're talking Pixar, Lucasfilm, and Marvel, right? And then he said the second transition was going digital, turning Disney into a digital company with Disney Plus, and also buying parts of Fox, the 20th Century Fox part of Fox, which not only helped them in terms of bandwidth, in some cases literally, but also brands, franchises, IP, to make sure that he talked about how they launched with so many movies and episodes, and they were able to hit the ground running with real value. By the way, I think it's interesting. He said, Disney Plus is doing incredibly well. And it's funny to have that come out the same day as Warner Brothers Discovery's news that, in fact, it was a little bit misreported. HBO Max is still adding Discovery Plus content, but Discovery Plus will still exist on its own because they discovered that people who already subscribe to Discovery Plus aren't willing to pay the higher price point. So they're going to price gouge you over on HBO Max, which will probably just be called Max. And then they're going to still have Discovery Plus at a much cheaper rate for those people who aren't interested in any of the Warner Brothers HBO content. So it's just, more mess. And then Bob Iger said Disney is having yet another transformation that he's going to oversee yet again. And he said it's going to have a return to creativity being at the center of the company, with people allowed to control their own divisions. Previously, Kareem Daniel, who was one of the only executives of color in Hollywood, and so it's unfortunate that he had to be let go to achieve this, because that was a big milestone. But Kareem Daniel had become the linchpin at Disney, and everybody had to go through him, and it was Kareem Daniel who decided where your product went. You created a movie or a show, and Kareem Daniel decided if it went to Disney Plus or theaters or ABC or Hulu, like that. So he was he was the hub. And so Bob Iger got rid of that, and he fired Kareem Daniel, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, like right after he was hired. And so Kareem Daniel's out, and now Bob Iger is saying you can control the fate of your own content, but you will be held accountable. So, because you're in charge, he said now the creative heads are allowed to decide where their content lives and to oversee the marketing of that content. I heard a rumor that Strange World, the reason they didn't advertise Strange World was not because of the LGBT aspects for the movie, but because it had tested so incredibly bad. I don't know why they didn't put it just immediately on Disney Plus. Maybe it was a contractual thing, but it had tested so poorly that they didn't want to throw any more bad money away on it. That's why they didn't advertise it, because again, it had tested so incredibly poorly. I don't think anything. It's like Batgirl over at Warner Brothers Discovery. Although I have to say, Strange World was unusually bad, even for Hollywood. So yeah, division heads, like Kevin Feige, now have more control over their product, but that also means Bob Iger is going to come over if it doesn't perform and be like, what the heck? I think that's very important. And then he said there are 3 core business segments, all right? He said there will be Disney Entertainment, which is being run by Dana Walden, who actually came over from Fox, interestingly enough. Where's Peter Rice, right? He didn't hire him back yet. Dana Walden and Alan Bergman are going to run that. ESPN, which will continue to be its own division. And again, they're not thinking of getting rid of it. And then Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products, which Josh D'Amaro is going to continue to run. And also, I saw a nice little story about Josh D'Amaro the other day about how he had joined the Make-A-Wish board. And I think that's really wonderful. So I think that was nice to see. So Disney now has, in terms of business structure, has 3 divisions, and then of course subdivisions in that. He also said he's going to reduce costs because he has to try and make this company more financially sound because of people like Nelson Peltz. Mika's asking about FX leadership. That would all be under Disney Entertainment. Disney Entertainment is going to oversee all of that. So to make sure that they save money, they're going to have non-content cost reduction, which includes, unfortunately, those layoffs of around 7,000 people. That's a huge number. And don't forget, Disney is a very special company because of the perks that they give to all of their employees. You get a significant perk when it comes to the parks and money off of visiting the parks and stuff like that. So to be laid off from Disney really affects your life. And so I'm glad that Bob Iger thought about it very strongly. But it's really an unfortunate reality that he had to do that. That's a considerable layoff. And then also reduction to content costs, as we just discussed. And he said a couple of things that he said. He said he's going to focus on core brands and franchises. He's going to aggressively curate content. So I'm curious what that means. He's going to adjust pricing strategy and promotional strategy, as well as improve marketing. And he talked about the fact that he felt Disney was too aggressive in its marketing and perhaps was going after consumers too much. So I think they're going to try and dial that back a little bit, which I think is interesting. I'll be curious to see how that goes for him. And then a greater use of legacy distribution, which I'm curious what that means in terms of, will they put more things in theaters instead of on Disney Plus? I know that they're doing some stuff directly for Disney Plus, like some pretty big deal stuff still that they're working on. But Bob Iger, I guess, could change his mind, or I guess he'll ask that division what they want to do, and then hold them accountable for it. All right, so that's the call. That's how it went. Thank you so much for your patience. I want to thank everybody for staying on topic and not distracting me, so I could talk that out. I thought that was really lovely. You guys, the BTT community is really incredible, and I want to thank Donna and iReady, who gifted some memberships while I was talking. I didn't get to thank them at the time, but they each gifted some memberships, and I just thought that was really kind of them. All right, it's Q&A time, baby. There we go. Now you can see it. Q&A. You can ask me anything you'd like. I'll stick around for 15 minutes. I'll be here till 6:30. Oh, look at Michael. He gifted 20 memberships. So you can ask me anything that you'd like. Dancing Dog 60 just gifted another 5. That's a lot of memberships being gifted. Greg Lazaro says, "Hi Grace, this is my first stream with my husband Chris, and Chris and I have been able to watch together." Hey Chris! P.S. I was named Employee of the Month, but unlike Andrea Riseborough, I didn't have to ask my friends to vote for me. Good for you, Greg. Good for you. You earned it legitimately. And that's so nice that you're watching the live stream with your husband. That makes me feel so nice. Hello to both of you. Steven says, Pam Anderson just talked about how Tim Allen flashed her on the set of Home Improvement. Do you think that will affect him if Disney... Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, Steven. Now, obviously, Tim Allen could never do that today, and it would be a serious issue. However, I think when you hear the context of the story and you understand the time that it happened, I think that it makes the story a little bit more understandable. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have brought it up personally because I didn't think it was malicious. What happened was that, of course, at that time, Pamela Anderson was very famous for her work in Playboy and had appeared in Playboy. And we all know that when you're in Playboy, you're in your birthday suit, let's say, okay? And so what Tim Allen had said was, it's only fair since I've seen you in your birthday suit, you see me in mine, right? So, and also, I guess Tim Allen to some degree was maybe shooting a shot, right? So I think the fact that it never happened again, and it was a one-time thing, to me does not seem malicious or like it's a harassment. But again, of course, you could never do that today. But I think that as we talk about things, I think you need to also bring into context, and then also the time period. Movie sets and TV sets are a weird place. They're a little bit like being at camp and stuff like that. And I think the fact that it never happened again, and he didn't harass her or stalk her, I feel it was just a bad joke. And it's like that thing people are doing now, or saying guys shouldn't look at them at the gym, like that's harassing them. I mean, it's obviously much more extreme than that, but I feel it's like kind of in the same ballpark. That's just how I feel about it. Greedy says, Grace, you said it a couple times, but I can't forget who this belongs to. Can you help me and let me know who said the quote, you make the best deals you can at the time? I said that, actually. I'm really glad that you liked it. I can tell you the context. Perhaps that's what you're wondering about. I said that in the context of people saying that it was a shame that Alan Moore didn't have enough control. I think maybe Joe Quesada said it. It was the reason that came up was people were saying that it was a shame that Alan Moore didn't have more control over Watchmen. Oh no, Peter David might have said it. It might have been No, not Peter David. Maybe Peter David. It was a comic book writer, I think. But I really love it. I think it's a great saying. I'm sorry I can't tell you exactly who it was, but and I think it might have been Peter David actually. Whoever the guy who writes comics and also wrote for some sci-fi shows, I think it's that guy because he has a Hollywood background, and he was like, look, Alan Moore wasn't a big enough name to sign a bigger deal, and writing Watchmen helped him become a bigger name, so he signed better deals later on. Paul Brunel says, do they give fired employees another place to go? Paul, I'm really glad that you brought that up. You guys are great. All right, so somebody the other day said, Grace, a friend of mine said, Grace, when you talk about people losing their job, be sure to distinguish between fired and layoff. And I'm so glad this person pointed this out to me. If you're fired, it's for cause, and that means you just lose your benefits and you're just gone. But if you're laid off, like which is happening here, you do get so you're supposed to get severance. You're supposed to get some benefits. The company's supposed to help you transition out. So I wanted to say, Paul, and I've made the same mistake too, so I'm glad I can pass it on, that these are laid off employees, and so therefore they will be, they don't get another job, but Disney tries to let them go as gently as possible. Hey, Alan, AG. Thager God, welcome back. Hold on, let me see there. Where'd that go? This thing jumps all the time. Hold on. Oh, it really jumped. Okay. All right, Callaghan McKeon says, out of the 3 newly announced movies, which of the one are you the most excited for? Oh, that's a good question. Zootopia 2. That's a pretty fresh series, a movie, and I feel like it's only on the second one, and so I think there's a lot of story left to explore there. The Wizard of Oz says, do you think Quake is coming back? Yes, I heard that she is coming back. I'm not quite sure where. My guess would be Secret Wars, but yes, she is coming back. Let's see here. Stephen Carrier says he didn't mention The Marvels as one of their big summer movies. Is it moving to November? No, he hardly mentioned anything. I think that he was, happy birthday, Evan. He didn't mention too much. I think that, Bob Iger, I think that he just mentioned the biggest ones. And let's see. I haven't heard anything about The Marvels moving. And I wouldn't assume that based on this call. Justin Olivieri, thanks for joining. Brian Brown says, did Iger say anything about Santos? George, the congressman? I'm not sure, Brian Brown, why you think Bob Iger would comment on that or why he needs to address it. Juan says, Juan's in flight school. Good luck, Juan, or break a leg, Juan. I'm excited for you. Lord Baratheon says, what do you think will be the next Disney billion-dollar film? I think it's going to be The Little Mermaid. I really think so. I think that, as I said before, I think the only 2 movies that I think are pretty strong bets for $1 billion this year are Fast X and Little Mermaid. Wesley Waller says, last ride not based on IP was Everest in 2006. Yeah, it's sad, Wesley. I don't like that they only make IP-based rides now. William Wallace says, hi, I was only able to tune in now, but we'll go back and watch. Wanted to let you know my husband and I went to the Riverside Square AMC at your recommendation last weekend and loved it. Oh, boy, that's so great. William, I'm so happy you and your husband tried that theater and I was able to help you find it. It is the best theater in the New Jersey area near New York City. So I hope that you were able to have a really good time going. That makes me very happy. Maybe someday I'll run into you there. I haven't been there in a while, but, I like that theater a lot. Alawatch says, instead of Paradise Lost for a Game of Thrones DC show, they should have made Dark Knights of Steel. Oh, that's a good comic. That's great. I don't know if they should it's so expensive to do a Game of Thrones style DC show. I think they're making too much DC content out of the gate. I'm like, you don't even know if this world works. And I'm glad you're enjoying Severance. Brett D says, hi, Grace. When do you think you'd feel safe going back to Disney and without a mask? Also living in Florida, the AMC in Disney Springs is still open. Oh, that's good. I don't see myself going to Disney and not wearing a mask inside for a very long time. But I could definitely see myself going back to Disney now. I just have to find a time that's a good time to go on vacation. And I think I would go at a time that it was like as least crowded as possible. But I could see myself going now. I think if you're in Florida, you should feel comfortable going now. Just try to go like maybe during the week, like at an off time. And I would just put my mask on if you were indoors or if it was crowded where you were standing. But like when I walk around New York City and there aren't too many people around, I don't have my mask on anymore. Let's see here. Jordan says, have you considered creating a Letterboxd account? No, I mean, I review movies right here, man. I just filmed my Quantumania review today because of the Super Bowl on Sunday, and I want to have my video ready in time. And we had some interesting stuff in there. Rob says, Grace, I've been away for a moment due to my busy schedule, but it's great to see you. It's great to see you too, Rob. Thanks for saying hi. There was a very kind gift here. I hope I'm getting to it. Sharon, kisses to you too, Sharon. Mwah. Laura Baratheon says, do you think Disney will ever work with Tim again? They sure will. After Lightyear bombed, they're going to be like, get me Tim Allen's phone number. Please stop tweeting. I'd be like, how much is it going to take for me to get you to stop tweeting, Tim Allen? I will write the check. NW Law Guy, that's incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much. Longtime watcher, just because of your incredible reporting and genuine kindness. That's such a nice thing to say. You didn't even have a question. The world needs more of this kind of community. Thank you. And thank you for being supportive of it. That's really just so nice of you. Oh, yeah, I didn't do a poll. Hold on, I'll do a poll in a second. Tiger Zord. Thank you for the pronunciation there. Have you heard any rumors about Disney buying Harry Potter? That'll never be for sale. It's never going to happen. I know sometimes you guys wish Disney owned the company that you love, like DC or Harry Potter, but, that's like Warner Brothers would just be like nothing if it wasn't for those things. They're not going to ever get rid of it. Oh, I like that, Danny. Oh, no, who said that? Oliver, poll for which sequel people are most excited about. That's a great poll. I'll do that right now. Hold on. There we go. Which announced sequel are you most excited about? I forgot about our poll party. Zootopia 2, Frozen 3, or Toy Story 5. And to think they didn't even want to make any sequels to Toy Story, but Disney threatened to do it without them, and that's how they were able to buy Pixar. Hilarious. And now they're on 5. They're like, well, I can't believe this happened to us. Although John Lasseter was even worse. Let's see here. I don't like when people say he got fired for hugging, because if you read what John Lasseter actually did, it's very bad. Let's see here. Hold on. I'm going back here. I got to go back to where I was. 1 second. I gotta talk to YouTube about this. I think I can't go back any further. All right, Buck's Basement says 2.1 million people dropped Disney Plus this year. Why do you think that was? I think Buck's Basement, you might have missed it earlier. It was the India situation. And that's that India, they lost the streaming rights to, I believe, it was cricket or something. And so a lot of people in India dropped the service. And so that's the star, and that's what happened. Okay, well, hold on. Jay King says, will you consider doing a watch-along for the finale of The Last of Us like you did with House of the Dragon? Let me see if I get it in advance. That would make the difference. If I don't get it in advance, then we'll do a watch-along. That was fun. I liked doing that quite a bit. Stephen Turner says, will you consider doing an updated Disney live-action ranking when Little Mermaid comes out? I sure will. I'll cover that like crazy. It's going to be fun times. David says, did you watch the Super Bowl spot for Scream? I did, but it was so short. It looked so unnerving. Word on the street is that the opening scene is very ambitious. I am excited about that, and I think the next BTT Movie Club will be Scream 4, because I didn't see that movie, and apparently it's kind of important. Alexander Wilson, that's right. Actress Nicola Peltz's father, who's married to one of Posh Spice and David Beckham's kids, that is her dad, Nelson Peltz. Danny says, Grace, what would you do with Avatar if you were Bob Iger? I told you, I like an animated Disney Plus show. I'm kind of feeling that. Will R says, poll, which billion-dollar sequel are you the most excited for? Oh, we already are doing that. Okay, let's see here. Zootopia 2 is winning like crazy. Zachary Smith says, what did you think of Harry's, win on Sunday night. I don't really follow music very well, Zachary, so I can't really comment on that. But I think Beyonce's doing pretty good. But I love Beyonce, so I guess I'll be upset too. Let's see here. Solitude Star says, wish I was excited for Zootopia 2. 8 years too late. Have you rewatched Zootopia lately? I think you will feel better. Lloyd Lester says, Grace, I got my pink slip. I got my pink slip through National Geographic. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. And yes, they help you along this difficult transition. I'm glad the company is doing right by you, even though they unfortunately you were laid off. I'm so very sorry about that, Lloyd. Devin Henderson says, Grace, what is it like being in the window of having seen Ant-Man so far before everyone? It's weird. I don't want to say too much, but let me just say, I don't really know if you should give that much weight to first impressions, first reactions. I think there's a high of seeing the movie early and stuff like that. I think you should really, if you really want to know how a movie is, I think you should wait for the RT score. That's honest, and the embargo lifts on Tuesday, on Valentine's Day, at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's all I'll say about what it's like to see a movie so early. It's weird. Twice as Bright says, do you think an Elsa LGBT romance will be explored in Frozen 3? I don't know. I thought the SNL sketch about that was very funny. I honestly don't know. I think that The Last of Us seems to be still doing very well, even though it is exploring LGBT storylines, so I think that's promising. But I think Disney is having a problem with this. I would like to see that explored maybe to some degree. I think it's a really tough call. I'm not sure what they're going to do, to be honest with you. Justin Olivieri says, Grace, do you think since Tim Allen wasn't the star of Lightyear that he will want to come back to Toy Story? Heck yeah! Heck yeah, he'll come back. Do you know how much money he could make off of that? He will 1,000% come back. Even Tom Hanks was like, I don't know why they didn't use Tim Allen. I think that Tim Allen, he would be nuts not to come back. Nobody's that angry. That would be like definitely cutting off your own nose to spite your own face. Just, however that saying goes. Steven says, hey Grace, Toy Story 5 has me intrigued. Will we see a Socks cameo? Oh, that's funny. You mean the cat from, the electronic cat from Lightyear. That would be very funny. I'm not sure if that would work though. I think they probably don't want to bring up that movie anymore. Eden says, wish they announced an Encanto 2 and an Incredibles 3. I have to say that would probably make people a little more excited. But I think that, they're doing an Encanto expansion, I believe, pretty soon at Disneyland, I think. Somewhere they're doing like an Encanto and Coco expansion in a park, and that's pretty exciting. I forget where. But as for Incredibles 3, I mean, that's reliant on what Brad Bird wants to do, unfortunately. Brad Bird has real control over that. Let's see here. Braden says, do you think Disney should lean back into theater? Well, they still have their very long ongoing theatrical things right now. Maybe they will. I still think it's a little COVID-y situation on Broadway, so I think they probably don't see the returns just yet. Mark Chapman says, hey Grace, I'm supposed to be watching Knock at the Cabin in AMC San Francisco, but they have a power outage. Oh no! Luckily I have your live stream to keep me entertained. Oh, I'm glad. That's so weird that happened. That's crazy. They haven't fixed it yet. Noah says, my only wish is for a real Disney villain in Frozen 3. That would be good. And then Lord Baratheon says, Disney should just announce Incredibles 3 already. But as we just discussed, that's very much up to Brad Bird. Mark says, Grace, thank you for all your hard work. Oh, thank you. I love those emojis, Mark. And Rodney says, hey, Grace, would love it if they expanded Raya, like a follow-up series, or I still wish and pray it happens in Raya watch-along eventually. I love Raya and the Last Dragon. I was just telling someone the other day what a good actress Kelly Marie Tran was and how good a job she did there. And I felt bad that Star Wars had, kind of gotten her off to such a poor start on the global stage. But I love that. I hope someday maybe they do more with it. She does show up at the park sometimes, which I think is nice. Luna says you're really double downing on this Tim Allen stuff. What do you mean? Just that I thought he should come back? Clearly, Luna does not agree that he should come back. Let's see. Or maybe Luna does. SC says Disney doesn't still work with Tim Allen. Yes, exactly, SC. Tim Allen still works with Disney on the Santa Clauses, and it did incredibly well. It's been renewed for a second season. Oliver Mark says, Grace, do you think Disney will refrain from adding LGBT characters and storylines due to the failure of Lightyear and Strange World? No, I do not. I think it's too important to society and to the many people who work at the company and their fans to stay with that. I don't know if there'll be leads, but I think they're going to keep going with it. I know that there's an element of that in the upcoming Wish movie, unless they removed it. So you have at least one more test. And I think we'll see what they decide to do. But I maybe it'll go more on Disney Plus. But considering who works at Disney and Disney's fandom, they just can't turn their backs on that group. Danny, I'm so excited for The Last of Us Episode 5. I also filmed my breakdown for that today, and it'll be ready when the episode ends on Friday. Let's see what the poll is here. Then I'll do one more poll. So let me end the poll so we can see. Amy says, I'm going to Disney World in June. I was supposed to go in January, but I got the flu. Sad I couldn't ride Splash Mountain one last time. Thoughts on the new ride skin? Oh, I'm so excited. I didn't like Splash Mountain, so I really think that Tiana is going to be an incredible attraction. And you're going to have a great time on your trip. Amy, I'm really happy for you, Amy. That's great that you're going to be doing that. Hold on. I skipped a bunch of stuff again. It's Benny, baby. Thanks for joining. Danelle says, I feel like Toy Story 5 will have to be set before Toy Story 3. But how's that going to work? And then Ryan X says, hi, Grace. Do you think Daddy Bob giving department heads more creative control bodes well for Deadpool 3 being rated R? Maybe. There'll still be some oversight. They don't have total creative control. And Bug says, I just appreciate this community so much. Business breakdowns are so amazing. Grace, your analysis is very great to hear. You're so detailed in your thoughts and input. Oh, I'm so glad. And I'm glad you're enjoying the live. I'm really starting to get into live streams. And Voice and Jack says, what was the last Disney VHS cassette you bought? Oh, I don't even remember. Hey, Frosty Salt, welcome back. Devin Henderson, I haven't heard anything about when What If 2 releases. H. Tiz says, should Disney open another theme park like in Texas and name it Disney's Universe? Yes, it will be expensive, but it will pay out in the long run. No, I think they should just expand their current California and Florida. I think they've got the two coasts, and you live near one of those. Steven says, hi, Grace. I'm watching with you with my boyfriend, Chris. We value your opinion and always watch your videos after seeing a movie. Oh, that's great. Another couple. I love it. Hey, Steven and Chris. Let's see here. Okay, I can't go back any further. Dun, 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 dun. Boo, 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 boo. David Kyle says, Disney does not have the guts to do a proper LGBT story. Not that strange. Well, I think they tried really hard with Strange World. I think they just lost sight of what the goal of the movie was, which is to be entertaining. Let's see here. Jennifer Clements, thank you. Are those cute little dogs? Oh, it's two little otters. That's so cute. James Alford says, hey, Grace, just got done teaching. Glad I could catch a stream. I'm glad too. Hooray. Let's see here. Where's the poll? Oh, there it is. Okay. Zootopia won by where'd it go? Zootopia won by a landslide. Where is it? There it is. 48%. Frozen 3, 36%. And Toy Story 5 at a meager 15%. Let me do one more poll and then I'll answer some more questions. Hold on. Do you feel better after hearing Bob Iger's plans and thoughts today? Yes or no? That's a pretty easy question. All right, there you go. Let me go here. I'm missing some comments here. I wish that YouTube would save these so it was easier for me to find them. Ray says, will you be watching reviewing History of the World Part 2? Oh, yeah, I was wondering if I got screeners for that, actually. I'm going to go check. I love the first one. Mel Brooks is awesome, so I might go and look at it. Thanks, Silver Scale. That's very kind of you. Anna Coastal says, are you excited about 87 North's new female-led action film, Ballerina Overdrive? It has Lena Headey attached to star. But isn't Ana de Armas playing a ballerina in John Wick spinoff? I mean, it should be cool. I hope, although 87 North stuff all seems the same these days, so I hope it's a little bit better. Good morning to you in the Philippines as well, Josiah. That's awesome. Jay King says, very excited for episode 5, but since I played the game, I'm dreading the Sam and Henry part. These live streams are always a highlight of my week. Hooray! Amy, that's so cute. Thank you. That's a heart. The heart looks great. I like that. That's glowing. And River Marquis says Grace is a queer icon. That's very kind. I'm honored that anybody would to hear that. That makes me feel very nice. You guys are the best. Tree Dow says, hi Grace, my boyfriend Bobby and my boyfriend Bobby and I watch you every morning during breakfast. Love that you're part of our AM routine. Huzzah! Hooray! This is so great. We're getting ready for Valentine's Day with all these couples. Robbie Shavitz says, thanks for the stream. Just catching it now. My pleasure. Hey, Jeffrey. Let's see here. Devin Henderson says, does Disney have any say in which spider character Sony can introduce? No, whoever's in that space is theirs. And then William Wallace says, just want to say that I agree with River about Grace being a queer icon. Thank you, William. And David Kyle says, Grace, I'm doing this school project. Do you think the COVID-19 pandemic changed the contractual entertainment? No, I don't think so. No. I think Me Too did. I think there are now behavior clauses. Overcooked Egg says, favorite Disney character? I guess I'd have to go with Mickey Mouse, but I once had a friend tell me that I was like Mike Wazowski, so I always have a soft spot for Mike Wazowski now. Sharon, thanks for joining. Ryder Boy says, just got off work listening to you in the car, which put me in such a great mood. Yeah, woohoo! It's Wednesday. What are you doing tonight, right? Rodrigo says, oh, that's very nice. Comparison to Wanda, maybe it's my red shirt today, but wow, that's such a nice thing to say. Let me see here. Jay says, my 4 cats and I love watching you. Oh, that's okay. I'm single too, Jay. Don't worry about it. And I think, Jay is a huge Disney fan, and I think that's awesome. Tammy says, Grace, loving the stream today. Is there a DC Elseworld story that you would recommend? Ooh. Oh, hey, Ryan K. I'm not sure. Off the top of my head, I'm afraid. I'm not quite sure what I would recommend. I'm sorry. Let's see here. All right, everybody. It's 6:40. Oh, my God. We had so much fun. Let me do a couple of quick shout-outs. What are you doing? Where are you? Let me just say hi. Platinum Diva is also single. Woohoo! Let's see here. Oh, let me see what the vote is. End the poll. 68% of you feel better. That's pretty good. Jay Got Milk says, lunch break in Oakland, California, eating cashews. Good for you. Danny, why are you sad in Chicago? Cheer up. Arkham Knight says, watching your live stream right now. Rodolfo says, in Texas, eating lasagna soup. I've never heard of that. Let's see here. Kelsey says, I missed the live. Sorry, Kelsey. Let's see here. Devin says, making dinner in Brooklyn, Greek chicken and roasted veggies. That sounds delicious. Guido Arazia says, hi, working while listening to the live stream. I just ate McDonald's. Delicious. Lucky you. Dancing Dog 60 says, making chicken in the air fryer in Boston. So delicious and healthy for you. Matt's coming at us from work in Michigan. Rotatorexia says, playing Red Dead 2 in Baltimore, eating my after-workout peanut butter. That's great. I'm glad you remembered to treat yourself. You're so into fitness. I love that's kind of like what your profile is, too. Chico says, making chicken nuggets and mac and cheese for my lunch tomorrow. That's awesome. Chad says, I'm single in New York City playing Hogwarts Legacy. That's awesome. You can do whatever you want. Jacob Herrera says, Grace and BTT community, will you be my Valentine this year? Of course, Jacob. For sure. David, if your super chats, I tried very hard. I'm sorry. I tried so hard, but sometimes they hide them from me, and I didn't do any super chats at the beginning while we were doing the main story. Damani Lovell says, eating pizza at my college in Manhattan. Awesome. New York City pizza. That's where it's at. Fall 2 says, I'm single in Philadelphia making guacamole. So cool. Work those skills. The Nerdy Scholar says, reading some DC comics in bed. Awesome. I have to stop reading comics before I go to sleep, though, because it's hard for me to go to sleep. I stay up too late reading comics. I have like a bottomless well of comics, thanks to Comixology. The Enchanted Life says, we need shirts about Grace's icon status. That's very kind of you to say. Keith says, had so much fun watching The Bad Batch in your live stream. Yes, there were 2 episodes of The Bad Batch that dropped today, and it's got so many more to go, but it's a great season. Mish says it's 1:42 a.m. in South Africa, but was looking forward to the stream. I'm sorry it was so late for you, but I really appreciate that you stayed up. Now you can dream about Disney's bright future. Danny says, right now having a cup of coffee and enjoying your stream. A lot of single Beyonders here. That's awesome. Let's see here. Ronnie Dollar says, just walking outside, might head home. back home soon to watch the last of us episodes that I missed. That's a good idea. You want to be ready for Friday. You want to be ready for Friday. And Anthony says, hey, friend from afar, about to get ready for bed. Love the business update. My pleasure. And Alawan says, single in Manila. Oh, that's awesome. What a cool place to be. And then Max Rollo says, hey, Grace from the UK. I watched The Woman King again today. That's 5 times in cinemas and twice at home. The movie deserves so much more recognition. I agree. It's sad what happened to that movie. But it made a lot of money. So it's not luckily that sad. So you guys were great. Leroy says, getting ready to celebrate my anniversary, finalizing plans to go away this weekend. Oh, congratulations, Leroy. That's a wonderful thing. And then David Quevedo says, just got home from work. Thanks for the company while driving. It was my absolute pleasure. I loved it. I love talking to all of you. I'm so glad we got to do a live today, and I think it was very well utilized. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.